But we have additional reading today. And the additional reading, we're not going to read the whole thing, but we're going to read the first part of it. It's called The Tyranny of the Urgent. This is a really well-known book among the Christian cycle. A lot of people read this book, and not only for Christians, but as you can see in the article today, that you can see that there are people like Stephen Covey, very famous person. He just got benefited by reading this book, because this book, it really talks about priorities of our lives. And I think that this is an important issue that we can discuss today. Yeah, just pass on. Just write down one thing that you regret in your life. Okay. So before we start our main reading, we're gonna go to the tyranny of the urgent. But before that, in the main reading, we have a few people that have come, so it's better if you know who they are. So you know, when we read it, we can know. Probably everybody knows Henry David Thoreau. He was born in 1817. He's a really well-known philosopher and also writer. He wrote a very influential essay called Civil Disobedience, which says that even if the government is doing something very wrong, you can follow your heart, something like that. And also he wrote a really well-known book called Walden. And he's an American transcendentalist. So he has a great influence in the American society and democracy also. Democracy in the United States. The second person is Jeff Bezos. Everybody knows who this guy is, right? Anyone knows him? He's the richest man in the world right now. Used to be Bill Gates. But this guy got even richer now. So he's a CEO of Amazon. Everybody knows Amazon, right? He's a CEO of Amazon. So there's a quotation by him. Third thing that it's good to know is the Groundhog Day is a movie that was played like 20 years ago. The actor was Bill Murray. This was a well-known movie back then. The movie is really basically talking about one day is the same as another day. So every day we keep on doing the same things. And then he talks a little bit about the tyranny of the urgent, but he doesn't mention about the book. But there is a book called The Tyranny of the Urgent by Charles Hummel, I think that's how you pronounce it. And this is a Christian writer. He wrote about the importance of doing the things that are more important to us, rather than doing the things that are urgent. There's a big difference between urgency and things that are important. As a matter of fact, there are three words that I'd like to just mention here. One is urgency. The other one is important. And I think this is something that I think we need to also talk about. You know what the urgency is, right? What is urgent? Urgency is something that is something that needs to do fast, something that needs to be done now. Second thing is what is important to us, right? Something that has value. Second thing is the third thing is emergency. You go to emergency room, why? Because it's urgent, but at the same time important, right? So you go to emergency room is where the most people who really needs to go to hospital right away. So it's urgent. At the same time, it's important that you be there, that you be treated right away. So three words that we need to really think about it. Something that is urgent, but sometimes not that important, right? Something that, for example, I had to leave today. I left 6:44 a.m. to get here at about 7:44, something like that. 1 hour. It took me 1 hour to get here. If I don't leave at 6:44, let's say if I leave about 7 o'clock, it takes about 1 hour and 20 minutes to get here. But if I leave at 6:44, I can get here in 1 hour. So 1 minute is very important. 1 minute that you go faster, you get here faster. So it's somehow important, but not too important. The class starts at 10 o'clock, so I could just be here at 10 o'clock, right? But if I leave there home about 8 o'clock or 8:30, it takes more than an hour and a half to get here. So it's urgent that I start driving earlier. It's urgent. This is what is called urgency. So it's important because I want to save time. I don't like driving in traffic. I really do hate it. So it's urgent, but it's not emergency. And it's not important that, because I have enough time. I could just leave at 8 o'clock and be here on time. So that's a perfect example of urgent. Something that needs to be done soon, but it's not that important. Something that can be delayed. Something that, we want to do it fast, but it's not that important. But there are things that needs to be done right away, right? Someone who's bleeding in the head, for example, had a blow or something like that in your head, needs to go to hospital right away, right? Someone who gets a stroke needs to go to hospital right away. Stroke is something that cannot be waited. If you're 3 hours late, there's a big damage in your brain. So you need to go to hospital right away. And when you go to hospital right away, you are treated right away because it's emergency, right? So this is important. But there are things that are very important in our lives. For example, for me, spending time with my daughter is very, very important. Right? Spending time, I want to know her, because she's senior. She's going to be senior in high school. Did everybody write this? Kyo, did you write this? Did you write this? Okay. So, next year, 1 year from now, she's gonna go to college, right? So 1 year from now, I'm not gonna see her as much as I see her today, right? So it's important that I spend time with her, but it's not urgent. I can spend time next day, the following day. But if I keep on postponing it, if I say, okay, not today, tomorrow, and then tomorrow there's something important that happens, there's something urgent that happens. I say, okay, sorry, next time. If I keep on doing that, not spending time with my daughter, a quality time, talking and things like that, I keep on postponing something that is very important to us. So this is what this book, The Tyranny of the Urgent, is. So we're going to read about that. And then this is C.S. Lewis is a very famous, we talked about him already, English Christian writer. He wrote I think it was in the movies. They made a movie about it. I think if you have seen this, it's called Chronicles of Narnia. He wrote a book called Mere Christianity. This is very famous books. One of my favorite books actually is the Chronicles of Narnia. It's a book for the children, but I really do enjoy reading it a lot And I wrote it, I read it when I was 25 years old, 26 years old, something like that. But still, it was very good. Will Wilmington is a UMC bishop. He is a pastor and a theologian also. R.C. Sproul is a very well-known Reformed theologian. So we're gonna, before we do start this class, go forward on this class, I'm gonna just share with us a few things that you said it about regret in your life. One person said, I do not have one. So, okay, good. Just keep on doing what you have to do. You don't have any regret. But I'm sure that if you really think about it, you have one. Some people say some friendship could have been better result. Oh yeah, me too. I have friends that, I think everybody have similar kind of experience that didn't end up well, but yeah, some friendship will better with a better result. I regret that I should start studying English when I was a child. Oh, that's good. So, if so, my pronunciation of English would be much better than now. Some people say that some people regret just believing everybody to be good people, but they ended up not being good people. And this happens all the time. I am very gullible too. There's a word for that, gullible. I'm very gullible too. I believe in people a lot. So I believe that naturally they're all good. But later on I find out that they're not so good. There are con artists, there are people that want to get something from you, and there are a lot of people that are good. But yeah, so be more careful in the relationship. One person didn't like the major that chose in the university. I think that's something that is very common also, right? You end up choosing a major or a career that you're not so happy. Some people just do what their parents wanted them to do, right? And they keep on doing it, but they're not very happy because certain work really doesn't fit to us, right? Some people said, one person said, too lazy? Yeah, sometimes we regret being a little bit lazy. So things that are very common to us, right? So this is an exercise that we did because, except with one person that said, I do not have any regret. Most of us have a regret. So we're going to talk about that thing more in our main reading. First, I'm going to go to the tyranny of the urgent. This is the article that you can see. It's from a book called Tyranny of the Urgent. Okay, let's read it. Have you ever wished for a 30-hour day? I think I do all the time, right? Surely this extra time will relieve the tremendous pressure under which we live. Our lives leave a trail of unfinished tasks, unanswered letters, unvisited friends, unread books haunt quiet moments when we stop to evaluate what we have accomplished. We desperately need relief. So we all need more time, right? It would be great if we had a 30 hours a day. That would be great. But would that longer day really solve our problems? No, right? Wouldn't we soon be just as frustrated as we are now with our 24 hours allotment? We could hardly escape Parkinson's principle. Work expands to fill all the available time. This is so true, right? If you have more time, then you have more work. This is how the life it works, right? Nor will the passage of time necessarily help us catch up. Children grow in number and age to require more of our time. Greater experience in profession and church brings more demanding assignments. We find ourselves working more and enjoying it less, right? We work more, enjoy less. Remember that I said a story about a lady who had a 5,000 square feet house, huge house, in a really nice neighborhood with a swimming pool with a tennis court inside the house. but she works the whole day. She goes early in the morning until late night, and she travels like 1 hour to get to the work, and she works the whole day. And she comes home really like 11 o'clock at nighttime, and then she washes and she sleeps, and the next day she wakes up at 6 o'clock and get ready to work and goes to work. She does that 6 days a week. 7th day, which is a Sunday, she goes to church, so she spends the most of the time in church. So she said, I have this huge house with swimming pool and tennis court, but I never enjoy it because she's always working. And she said, the person who works in my house enjoys my house more than I do. You know, they get to spend time in the house, right? The same thing. We work harder, we work more, but we don't enjoy it. We don't enjoy life. We work so hard to live a life, but we don't enjoy it, right? Jumbo priorities. When we stop long enough to think about it, we realize our dilemma goes deeper than shortage of time. It's basically a problem of priorities. Yeah, this is so true, right? Hard work doesn't hurt us. We all know what it is to go full speed for long hours, totally involved in an important task. The resulting weariness is matched by a sense of achievement and joy. Not hard work, but doubt and misgiving produce anxiety as we review a month or a year and become oppressed by the pile of unfinished tasks. We sense uneasily our failure to do what was really important. The winds of other people's demand and our own inner compulsion have driven us onto a relief of frustration. We confess, quite apart from our sins, we have done those things which we ought not to have done, and we have left undone those things we ought to have done. So there are a lot of things that we didn't do that we should have done, and there are things that we shouldn't have done, so important, they're not that important, but we do it, right? An experienced factory manager once said to me, your greatest daily danger is letting the urgent things crowd out the important. He didn't realize how hard his advice hit. It has often returned to haunt and rebuke me by raising the critical problem of priorities. We live in a constant tension between the urgent and the important. So the two words, first words, what is urgent and what is important, right? The problem is that many important tasks need to be done today or even this week. Extra hours of prayer, Bible study, a visit to an elderly friend, reading an important book. These activities can usually wait a little longer, but often urgent, though less important. Tasks can call for immediate response, endless demand, pressure every waking hour. A person's home is no longer a castle, a private place away from urgent tasks. The telephone breaches its walls with incessant demands. These days, it's not more telephone, it's like emails, right? You get so many emails. They're not that important, but they're urgent, right? The appeal of this demand seems irresistible, and they devour our energy. But in the light of eternity, their momentarily prominence fades. With a sense of loss, we recall the important tasks that we have been shunted aside. We realize that we've become slaves to the tyranny of the urgent. Is there any escape from this pattern of living? The answer lies in the life of our Lord. On the night before he died, Jesus made an astonishing claim. In his great prayer of John 17, he said to the Father, I have brought you glory on earth by completing the work you gave me to do. Remember, Jesus only worked for the kingdom of God 3 years. His ministry only involved 3 years. What urgent is trying to say is that spending time with God, for example, some people it's not important because if you're not Christian, you don't have to spend time with God, right? But if you are Christian, serious about being Christian, spending time with God is important because you want to hear what God wants us to do. And sometimes if you don't spend time reading Bible and praying, we don't do things that God wants us to do. And God has planned us to live a life. So you're missing the point, right? You're missing the aim, of the objective of our lives. So what is the objective of our life? What is the goals of our lives? So if you set a goal and you want to get to this goal, you need to do things that are important to get these goals, right? So the same thing. So this is what Jesus was trying to say. Plus, just let's read our main reading today. Here's first what matters most: the story of the 10 bridesmaids. This is a story of in Jewish wedding. What happened? Today's wedding is very different. In Jewish wedding, it was like weddings took not just today is like 1 hour wedding and 2-3 hours of party, right? After reception, right? Wedding is maybe 30-40 minutes of ceremony and then 2-3 hours of reception. But in Jewish wedding is many days. I think all Korean weddings are like that too. Many days of just party, right? So what happened? This guy who gets married usually comes in the marriage. He comes to the bride home and gets married, and then they have parties for many days. And the last part of their wedding is they come and they spend a lot of time, and then they have the bride has bridesmaids. These are her friends, right? We call the bridal party. In Korean, tulari, right? People that were there to help the bride, right? And 10 of them were there. But 5 of them were ready because they need oil to keep the lantern burning, because the party will go over at the nighttime too. And this happens that the groom came at midnight, came really late. So if they wanted to have a party going, they needed to have the lamp ready with the oil ready. But the 5 of them had the oil ready, the 5 others didn't have. So this is a story that we're gonna read about. So what's your biggest regret in life? It's a question that we usually ask. Students from local universities set up a chalkboard on a sidewalk near Lieutenant Joseph Petrosino Square in New York City for one day. So this is the same exercise that we did. I gave you the sheet to write down your regret, right? At the top of the board was written a simple statement: write your biggest regret. They provide a supply of colored chalk. The charcoal grabbed the attention of many of the people walking by, and slowly but surely it filled to overflowing with written regrets that were poignant and thought-provoking. Burning bridges, not speaking up, not being a good husband, this is one of them, right? Not spending enough time with family, it's a very common regret, right? Not saying I love you. I think I'm gonna regret with the same thing to my parents. I love my parents. It's very hard for me to say, Father, I love you. It's a Korean men thing, and it's very hard for me to say something like that too. Even though I love my father so much, it's very hard for me to express. I think daughters, they do better, but it's very hard. But I think I'm gonna regret when I get older and find my father. He's still alive. He's 84, and I'm very thankful. But this is one of the things that we regret, right? I'm not saying I love you. Never applying to medical school. Not making the most of every day. This is something similar to the one that you wrote being too lazy, right? Not being a better friend. This is something, same thing as talking about a friendship, right? Not leaving one's comfort zone. As the board filled up with so many different phrases, the student noticed that almost all of the phrases of regret had one thing in common. Nearly all of them involved the word not. They were about words not spoken, dreams not pursued, and a relationship not repaired. Jesus tells a parable that is about the two saddest words in English language. Too late. Right? Like college students who are in the midst of a semester-long class, everyone knows that the final exam is coming, so it is wise to be prepared for it. On the day of the exam, for the unprepared students, it's too late. They will regret it, but they will not be able to turn back the hands of time. This is true about life. It is also probably one of the most denied and avoided truths. At one point, Jesus tells 4 stories in our role that serve the purpose to bold, underline, size the fact that one day there will be a final exam, but on that day it will be too late to prepare. However, Jesus is telling us this story is because it is not too late now. He's like a professor who says in advance to pay attention to this because you will be on the final exam. When a professor says that, we have a choice. Either we can ignore him or we can receive it as an act of grace from someone who wants his students to be prepared to graduate. So it's not too late. Jesus is giving us a warning. But one day, I don't want us to say it's too late. Right? So Jesus begins the story like this. The kingdom of God, heaven will be like 10 bridesmaids who took their lamps and went to meet the groom, a bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and the 5 were wise. The 5 who were foolish didn't take enough olive oil for their lamps, but the other 5 were wise enough to take extra oil. When the bridegroom was late, they all became drowsy and fell asleep. At midnight, they were roused by the shout, "Look, the bridegroom is coming. Come out and meet him." All the bridesmaids got up and prepared the lamps. Then the 5 foolish ones asked the others, "Please give us some of your oil because our lamps are going out." But the others replied, "We don't have enough for all of us. Go to a shop and buy some for yourselves." But while they were gone to buy oil, the bridegroom came. Then those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was locked. Later, when the other 5 bridesmaids returned, they stood outside calling, "Lord, Lord, open the door for us." But he called back, "Believe me, I don't know you. So you, too, must keep watch. For you do not know the day or hour of my return." So this is about Jesus' return. Jesus will come back one day, and hopefully it's not going to say it's too late. We want to be prepared for that, right? We're not just running in circles. First century people knew how to party, right? As I just explained to you. A wedding celebration went on for days, not just hours. Near the end of multi-day celebration, the groom would come to the home of the bride and escort her to the final ceremony. It was this act that was formal recognition of their union, which was always accompanied by even more celebration. Before a groom would come, a friend of his would precede him to say, page 8, right? "Look, here's the groom. Come out to meet him as he arrives." In American culture, we often say, "Here comes the bride." But in those days, it was rather, "Here comes the groom." In this story, the groom is delayed, although the people are not told for how long. He will come. The groom is a picture of the Messiah who is Jesus. What Jesus is saying is that he's going to return on the appointed day. He'll come for his bride, and all the wrongs of the earth will be set right. God's intended order will be restored in completion. Jesus is throwing this story alongside us to awaken us to the fact that life is not some random cycle of events. Just because you feel as though you are running around in circles does not mean you are. There is an old Bill Murray movie called Groundhog Day. I just put it in the board, right? Which has the plot that every day is just a repeat of the previous one, but this is not like Jesus. just as your life had a beginning and it will also have an end. Each of our choices matter and ultimately we will be judged. Jesus tells us this is we understand that we are to live in the light of this truth. The groom is coming back, so be prepared and have oil in your lamps. It is helpful to think of the lamps of our lives, the oil as the deeds and the attitudes of our hearts that fill our lives. This is not simply a conjecture. It is his most famous message called the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus told those gathered, "You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under the basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on the stand, where it gives light to everyone in the house. The same way, let your good deeds shine out for all those to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father." So this is a story. If you have a lamp, what do? You cannot just put it on under. It's gonna just shine this part, not the whole room. But if you put the lamp high up, it's gonna shine the whole room. It's gonna brighten the whole room. This is so true. So Jesus is saying that whatever you do, whatever your deeds, things that you do in this life, let it shine to other people. Let people know that you are doing something for them and give glory to the Father, right? Doing first what matters most. The bridesmaids are given only one task, to make sure the lamps are ready for the celebration. 5 of the bridesmaids are not ready. There is no oil in their lamps left to burn. They ask to borrow oil from the 5 wise bridesmaids, but they say no. The answer seems so selfish. Why won't they lend oil to the 5 foolish bridesmaids? The point is this: some things cannot be borrowed. So this is things that something that cannot be borrowed, something cannot be shared. Being a pastor of a church, many times I said, believe in Jesus, come to church, have fellowship with God, and have fellowship with others. And you know what they say? Oh, I'm okay. I'm going to go to heaven because my wife goes to church and she's a very good Christian. Or vice versa. My husband